Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at how to disable the bezels on the system and also how to stretch the display to a widescreen view. Now, I personally don't like doing that because things tend to get stretched out and not look correct and kind of look funny. Most of these systems weren't intended to be played widescreen, so when you do that, everything just looks stretched out. But I know some of you guys prefer that and don't mind the stretched look as long as you have your 69 view. So this is going to be for those of you guys who like that kind of look. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is do Control Shift Escape on the keyboard. Let's go ahead and select New Task. If it doesn't say Explorer, type Explorer in there, hit OK. My Windows is already loaded in the background, so you will not get this random window that pops up. You'll actually get Windows itself loading. Give that a few seconds, then go ahead and select Hyperspin and do End Task. And then that's going to bring you to the desktop. Next thing you want to do is double click this rocket launcher icon on the desktop. I already did that to save time, so we're going to open that up here. And actually, before we get started, let's back everything up. You always want to do a backup before you make any changes. So go to Start menu, go to My Computer. We're going to go to the Rocket Launcher folder here, and you're going to go to Modules, and let's go to Retroarch. Here it is. You can go ahead and copy paste that entire folder. Copy, paste, and as you can see, I've made a copy of it. The next folder we want to back up is the Retroarch folder, the actual emulator config. So let's go to emulators. Look for Retroarch. And go ahead and back up the config folder. So copy, paste. Okay, now that everything is backed up, let's go ahead and go back into Rocket Launcher. And we're going to start with Retroarch. Now, Retroarch is going to cover a lot of the emulators and systems on here. So just by doing that one, you'll knock out like half or more of the systems. So there's two ways you can go about it. You can do it, there's a shortcut way of doing it, and that's going to disable the bezels for every single system that uses Retroarch at once. And the second way I'm going to show you is how to do each system at a time. So that way you can go ahead and do one at a time and see if you like it or not on a per system basis. So maybe you want to stretch some of them, maybe you don't want to stretch other ones. So that second way is going to be per system, and this first way is going to be just to do them all at once. For the first step anyway. The second step you have to do it manually, but anyway, let's get into it. So before we start, I'm going to show you what it looks like now with the bezel and with the correct aspect ratio. So let's select Super Nintendo as an example. And you'll know that this uses Retroarch by going to the emulators tab right here. And it tells you there that the default emulator is Retroarch. So that's how you know. So let's go to the games tab. And we're going to go, we're going to hit the play button right here. Let me take this out of here. When you hit the play button, it audits the system and pulls up all your games. So I want to use Super Mario as an example. So I'm going to search for that. Here we go, and let me start that up and we'll see what it looks like now. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I actually have it on full screen there, so let me fix that real quick. Here we go. So the bezels were still there, but the actual display was full screen and the bezels were overlapping it. So now it should be okay. Okay, so there you have it with the correct aspect ratio and with the bezels. So if you wanted to just get rid of all the bezels at once, it's very simple. We can just go ahead and go to computer and go over to emulators and then Retroarch. Open that one up, and then you're going to take your config folder and go in there and look for the system we're working on, which is Super Nintendo. So go down to Super Nintendo and make sure you're choosing the correct one. You don't want this one. You want just straight up Super Nintendo Entertainment System. So we can go ahead and double click that, and here it is, Super Nintendo Entertainment System.cfg. And then what you want to do is you want to scroll down all the way down until you see this entry here is like one of the longest ones that ends in Bezel69.cfg. The next line over here tells you input overlay enable, and right now it's set to true. So we're going to highlight that and type in false, and that is going to make sure you keep the quotations, right? And then you're going to go up here, floppy disk icon, hit save. Okay, so by doing that, you've just disabled the bezel only on that system. So we're going to go ahead and go back in here, and we're going to start that game again. Okay, so you just see there that the bezel is no longer there, but the game is still in 4:3 aspect ratio. So the next step is going to be to go into modules, select a Retroarch, not 2.2.4, just the first one here. Select the fourth icon from the right, this one right here. And then go over to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System tab, aspect ratio, change that 4:3 to 69. And that's all you have to do. Close that, go back to the game, and now it should have no bezels and it should be full screen 69 display. Okay, so there you have it, guys. And I think I told you I was going to show you how to do it all at once, and I actually showed you per system. But if you wanted to do them all at once, the second step, you're still going to have to go in here per system and change it to 69. But you can save yourself a little bit of time from doing this first step that we did with setting this to false right here. You can save that step and do it all at once by going back to your config folder in Retroarch, and I'm sorry, not the config folder, but you're going to be in emulators Retroarch, okay? And then we're going to go down to the overlays folder, and you want to rename this folder here to anything. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to rename it to .bak, and you could rename this one as well to .bak. And basically what that's doing is, that holds all of the bezel files in there. So when the emulator tries to look for a bezel, it looks in there, and I have it pointing there, so it's looking for notch bezels. And if it doesn't find that folder, it's just not going to display it. So it's an easy way of just knocking them all out for every single system that uses Retroarch. Again, if you want to do it on a per system basis, do it the way I just showed you in the previous step. So I'm going to put that back now. And remember that even if you rename those two, that's going to get rid of the bezels, but the aspect ratio is still going to be 4:3. So you still have to go back to Rocket Launcher, and you do have to do the aspect ratio manually for everyone. So quick example, I'm going to show you another one so you get the hang of it. Let's see, Nintendo. Let's do Nintendo. Here we go. So again, you would go into Notepad++. You can either go there or you can go directly to the Retroarch folder, and then the config folder. Look for Nintendo. Nintendo Entertainment System right here. Look for that long entry again. Okay, input overlays right there. Okay, this one is structured a little bit differently. So what you can do is, let's see, we still have Super Nintendo open here. So you can copy this line and put overlay enable, right? Copy that. Go back to Nintendo and you can do a Control F for find. And I'm just gonna paste that entry in there and find it. And there it is, and put overlay enabled. So now we're gonna set that to false. Keep typing this wrong. Okay, there we go. Make sure the quotations stay. Save it. Let's go back to Rocket Launcher and let's try a game. Hit the play button to audit. Let's try this one, 1942. Launch it. And there you go, there are no bezels now. So next step, you go into the modules folder, tab, Retroarch, fourth icon from the right, go over to the Nintendo tab and set the aspect ratio to 69. Close it. Let's go back and start the game again. And there you go, now you have full screen. Okay, so that's going to be for Retroarch, and that covers a lot of the systems. If you go to the emulators tab and you just scroll through all the different systems, you can see that a lot of them are going to be Retroarch. It tells you right there. And I'm just going through all these different systems. And yeah, that's going to do it for all those. Next up, we're going to do MES, which also is going to cover a good amount of systems. So for MES, let's see, one of the systems is ColecoVision. So if you type that in here, singles it out over here. So you select ColecoVision, you can see that the emulator is MES. So for that one, what you want to do is, let's go ahead and go to Notepad++. Okay, you can start it from here if you don't have it open already. Start Notepad++. Once that's open, I'm just going to go to File, Open, and you're going to go to Emulators. You're going to look for MES, and then you want to open mes.ini. Once you open that, you're going to scroll down until you get to OSD Video Options. And then you're going to go to this line here, Keep Aspect. And you're going to set that from 1 to 0. And then go ahead and save. Okay, that's all you have to do. Aside from disabling the bezel, but that's the first step. So now, if we go back to Rocket Launcher, let's go to the Games tab for ColecoVision, Play, to audit, and let's look for, I like doing Omega Racer. Here it is. We're going to start that up. Now you can see that it has the correct aspect ratio because the bezels are still enabled. So now we're going to exit. Same step as with Retroarch, we're going to go to the Modules tab. Actually, no, this one's a little bit different. This one, you don't have to do the aspect ratio in here. So you're going to go to the Settings tab, and then you're going to go to the Bezel tab over here, Bezel. And then you're going to go here to Bezel, Enabled is set to True. You can either set it to false or use global. Use global is already set to false, so either or will work. So we're going to do use global. Now, when you go back and you launch the game, it should be full screen. There you go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try another MES system here. Let's see what else is MES. We can just look through them and find one that says mess on it. I think this is one. Let's see, emulators. Yep, there it is. So if you start this game now, if you start a game from the system, actually this is a bad example because this system does not go full screen no matter what, but let's just say it did. So you would have the bezels here. You go over to the settings tab, bezel, enable. You would set that to use global or false. You go back to the game, launch it. And you can see the bezels are gone. And if this system supported full screen, it would be full screen. But again, this particular one does not. So that's as big as you're going to get on this one. All right, so that pretty much covers mesh. And again, there's a good amount of systems that also use mesh. So between Retroarch, mesh, and we're going to do MAME next, that covers just about almost every system. So MAME is pretty similar. So let's actually select MAME. Let's go over to the Games tab and audit it. And I'm going to use one of my favorite fighting games as an example here. Oh, maybe it's together. Here it is, Darkstalkers. Okay, so let's start that up and see what it looks like now. Okay, and you can see that it has bezels on the side. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. We're going to go back to Notepad++. You're going to go to File, Open, and you're going to go to Emulators, look for MAME right here, and then go down to MAME.ini, open that up. And again, you're going to go down to the OSD video options. And again, you're going to change keep aspect from 1 to 0. And you're going to hit save. And then next up, just like mesh, we're going to go back into Rocket Launcher settings. And for bezel, you're going to set it to either false or use global. Now when we go back to that game, it should be full screen. There you go, guys. So that about sums it up. Like I said, Retroarch, mesh, and MAME are going to take care of almost every system. The ones that are left over are pretty simple to change because they have a really nice GUI, the graphical user interface. So it's really simple to just go into the menu, video settings, and like click stretch or 69 or whatever it is. And then the other ones that are left over are, there's a handful that are not going to support widescreen. So, and just to give you a quick example, we're going to do PlayStation 2, which has its own, way of making it full screen. So if we come here and we select PlayStation 2, if we go to the emulators tab, you can see that the emulator is PCSX2. Okay, so we know that now. So the first thing you're going to do is go to settings. Again, bezel, set that to use global. That got rid of the bezel, but we still have the 4:3 aspect ratio. So now to make it 69, we know that the emulator is PCSX2. So we're going to go to computer. We're going to go to our emulators folder, look for PCSX2 right here. Open that, and then we're going to open up the executable. And then basically just look through the menu. So let's see, config, video, let's see, plugin settings. It's actually going to be under Windows settings. So let's go into Windows settings. And there it is, standard 4:3. Change that to widescreen 69. Apply, okay. Close up the emulator. Go back to Rocket Launcher. We already disabled the bezel. So now we're going to go to Games, and all that by hitting the play button. And let's just choose any game here and start it up. And there you go, it's full screen. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. As usual, leave a thumbs up below, and hope this was helpful. I know some of you guys do prefer the widescreen. I personally don't, and I know a lot of people don't either. And especially when you see them back to back, you kind of start to get the feel for, okay, yeah, this looks stretched out. It's nice to have a widescreen display, but at the end of the day, it looks stretched out and not as intended. So. But anyway, if you do like that look, this is for you, and I hope this was helpful. See you guys in the next one.